Commander Jake Morrison sat in his captain's chair aboard the UES Horizon, watching the stars streak past through the main viewing screen. The ship had been traveling for 3 months now, exploring the outer edges of known space. This was humanity's first real push into the unknown regions beyond their established colonies. "Commander, we're getting some strange readings on long-range sensors," said Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her station. She was the ship's tactical officer, a sharp woman. With quick reflexes and an even quicker mind, Jake turned toward her. "What kind of readings?" "Multiple ships, sir, large ones. They're not moving in any pattern we recognize." Amy's fingers danced across her control panel. "They're definitely not human vessels." The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew this moment would come eventually. Humanity had been expanding into space for over a century, but they had never encountered another intelligent species. The question wasn't if they would meet aliens, but when. "How many ships?" Jake asked. 12, sir, maybe more." "They're big, much bigger than anything we have." Jake stood up from his chair. "All stop, bring us to full alert, but keep weapons offline. This is first contact protocol, people. We don't know who they are or what they want." The crew moved quickly but calmly. They had trained for this situation many times. The Horizon was an exploration vessel, not a warship, but it carried enough firepower to defend itself if needed. Still, Jake hoped it wouldn't come to that. "Sir, they're moving toward us," Amy reported. "All 12 ships, coming in fast. Open a channel. All frequencies." The communications officer, a young man named Peter Walsh, worked at his station. "Channel open, sir." Jake cleared his throat. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Horizon. We come in peace. Please respond." For a moment, there was only static. Then a voice came through the speakers, speaking perfect English with a strange accent that sounded like wind through metal pipes. "Human vessel, you will surrender immediately. I am Admiral Kethver of the Zephyrian Empire. Your species will submit to our rule or be destroyed." Jake felt his stomach drop. So much for peaceful contact. "Admiral Kethver, we don't want any trouble. We're just explorers." "Explorers?" The alien's voice carried what sounded like laughter. "You're primitive. Species thinks it can explore our territory? You will power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded." "We don't have our weapons powered up," Jake said truthfully. "And this isn't your territory. We've seen no markers or claims." "All space belongs to the Empire, human. You exist only. Because we permit it, your resistance is meaningless." Jake looked at Amy. She was checking her instruments, her face grim. She held up 12 fingers, then made a cutting motion across her throat. The message was clear: 12 ships, all armed and ready for battle. "Admiral," Jake said, "we're willing to talk. Perhaps we can reach some kind of agreement." "There is no agreement. There's only submission or death. You have 1 minute to surrender." Jake cut the channel and turned to his crew. "Options?" "We can't outrun them," said the navigator, Lieutenant Carl Brooks. "They're too fast, and we're outnumbered." "We can't fight them either," added the chief engineer, Lieutenant Helen Price. 12 against 1, we'd last maybe 30 seconds. Amy was still working at her station, her fingers flying over the controls. "Actually, sir, we might have a chance. I'm reading their ship designs. They're powerful, but they're old." "Really? Old? Their weapons are energy-based, probably plasma or particle beams?" "And that helps us how? Our defensive systems are newer." "Much newer." "I think we can take a few hits, and their formations are predictable, if we can get close enough." The communications channel crackled to life again. "Time is up, human. Surrender. Or die." Jake made his decision. "All hands, battle stations. Amy, you have tactical control. Do what you can." The alien ships opened fire without warning. Bright beams of energy lanced across space, striking the Horizon's shields. The ship shook under the impact, but the shields held. "Return fire." Jake ordered. Amy's hands moved quickly over her controls. The Horizon's weapons came online, but Jake noticed something odd. Only some of them activated. The ship had more firepower than what Amy was using. Amy, what about the other weapon systems? First, contact protocol, sir. We're not supposed to reveal our full capabilities during initial encounters. Even with limited weapons, Amy worked magic. She fired the ship's main guns not at the alien vessels, but at the space around them. The energy beams struck small asteroids and debris, creating a cloud of superheated particles that confused the alien sensors. Now! Amy shouted. The horizon dove through the particle cloud, its hull glowing from the heat. The alien ships lost track of them for a few seconds, and Amy used that time to get close to the nearest enemy vessel. The human ship's weapons fired at point-blank range, targeting what looked like the alien ship's main engine. The blast tore through the enemy's hull, and the ship spun out of control. "One down," Amy called out, but the other aliens were learning fast. They spread out, making it harder for the horizon to use the same trick twice. Energy beams struck the human ship from multiple directions. Shields at 60%. Helen reported from engineering. Amy tried another approach. She fired the ship's weapons at a large piece of space debris, breaking it into smaller chunks. Then she used the ship's tractor beam to hurl the debris at the alien ships like a shotgun blast. 2 more alien vessels took damage, their shields flickering under the impact. But there were still 9 ships left, and the horizon was taking heavy damage. "We need to get out of here," Jake said. "Working on it, sir," Amy replied. She targeted the alien ship's weapon systems, not trying to destroy them but to temporarily blind them. A series of precise shots took out several alien gun turrets. "Helen, I need everything you can give me from the engines," Jake ordered. "You'll have it, sir." The Horizon's engines roared to life, pushing the ship faster than it had ever gone before. The alien ships gave chase, but they were damaged and confused. Amy had bought them the time they needed. As they jumped to faster-than-light speed, Jake heard Admiral Kethvar's voice one last time. "This is not over, human. The Empire will find your world. You have only delayed the inevitable." The Horizon escaped into hyperspace, carrying with it humanity's first knowledge of the Zephyrian Empire. In the quiet of his ready room later, Jake reviewed the battle recordings with Amy. "You did good work out there," he told her. "But I noticed you didn't use all our weapons." Amy nodded. "First contact protocol, sir. We're supposed to appear less advanced than we really are during initial encounters. The idea is to not reveal our true capabilities until we know what we're dealing with." "And what are we dealing with?" "An empire that thinks it's unstoppable. They've probably conquered dozens of species, maybe hundreds. To them, we're just another primitive race that needs to be absorbed." Jake studied the tactical data. "They seemed surprised by our maneuvers." They were. "Their tactics are old, based on overwhelming firepower and intimidation. They're not used to enemies who fight back effectively." "Do you think they'll come after Earth?" Amy was quiet for a moment. "Yes, sir." "I think they will. And when they do, they'll bring everything they have." Jake nodded grimly. The Horizon set course for Earth, carrying news that would change humanity forever. First contact had been made, and it had gone very, very wrong, but as the ship traveled through hyperspace, neither Jake nor Amy knew the full truth. The Zephyrian Empire was indeed powerful, but they had just made their first mistake. They had underestimated humanity, and that mistake would cost them everything. Admiral Kethvar's report to the Empire would describe humans as mildly competent, but ultimately primitive. He would request a small conquest fleet to claim Earth and its colonies. The Empire's leaders would approve his request with amusement, thinking they knew exactly what they were dealing with. They had no idea that the real army hadn't even shown yet. 3 months had passed since the Horizon's encounter with the Zephyrian Empire. The news of hostile aliens had spread through human space like wildfire, and every colony was preparing for the worst. General Lisa Carter stood on the bridge of the colonial defense ship New Texas, watching the sensor displays with growing concern. She commanded the defense forces of New Kansas, a farming world on the outer edge of human space. The planet grew food for a dozen other colonies, and losing it would mean starvation for millions. "General, we're picking up multiple contacts at..." "The edge of the system," reported Captain Danny Williams, her second in command. "Looks like the aliens have arrived." Lisa nodded grimly. They had been expecting this. Earth's government had sent warnings to all the outer colonies, telling them to prepare for attack. But preparing and actually facing an alien invasion were two very different things. "How many ships?" she asked. 15, ma'am. All of them bigger than anything we have." Lisa looked at her own fleet. 23 ships, but most of them were converted cargo haulers and mining vessels. Only 6 were actual military craft, and those were old patrol boats designed to chase pirates, not fight alien warships. "All ships, this is General Carter. Take defensive positions around the planet. Remember, we're not trying to win a stand-up fight. We're trying to buy time and make them pay for every inch." The alien fleet moved into the system with confidence. Lisa watched them on her screens, noting how they maintained perfect formation. These weren't explorers or traders. These were conquerors. Who had done this many times before, a voice crackled over the communication system, speaking in the same strange accent they had heard about from the Horizons reports. "Humans of this world, I am Admiral Kethfer of the Zephyrian Empire. You will surrender immediately or face destruction." Lisa opened a channel. "This is General Carter. We're not surrendering. If you want this world, you'll have to take it. So, be it. Your defiance will be remembered as a lesson to other primitive species." The alien ships opened fire without warning. Energy beams reached across space, striking the human vessels. The converted cargo ship Lucky Strike exploded in a ball of fire, killing everyone aboard. 2 more ships followed quickly after. "Return. Fire!" Lisa ordered. The human ships fought back with everything they had. Their weapons were smaller and weaker than the alien guns, but they were handled by people fighting for their homes. The patrol boat Ranger managed to damage an alien cruiser before taking a direct hit that left it drifting in space. Lisa watched her fleet being torn apart, but she noticed something important. The aliens were fighting like they expected easy victory. They stayed in formation. They didn't adapt to human tactics, and they seemed surprised when human ships didn't break and run immediately. "All ships pattern Delta," she ordered. The surviving human vessels scattered in all directions, abandoning their defensive formation. The aliens tried to follow, but their ships were too big and slow to keep up with the smaller human craft. Captain Williams looked confused. "General, we're leaving the planet defenseless." "No, we're not. Watch and learn." The human ships had spread out across the system, but they weren't running away. They were positioning themselves for what came next. Lisa had studied every piece of data from the Horizons encounter, and she had noticed something the aliens missed. All ships execute Shepard protocol. The scattered human vessels suddenly converged on the alien fleet from multiple directions. But instead of attacking the big warships, they targeted the smaller support vessels that were hanging back behind the main force. The aliens had not expected this. Their formation broke apart as they tried to protect their supply ships and troop transports. In the confusion, the human ships struck hard and fast, destroying 3 alien vessels before disappearing again into the asteroid field that ringed the system. Admiral Kethfer's voice filled the communication channels, and he sounded angry for the first time. "Cowards, face us in honorable battle," Lisa smiled grimly. "Honor doesn't feed my people or keep them alive. All ships, continue hit and run attacks. Make them chase shadows." The battle continued for 6 hours. The human fleet was slowly being destroyed, but they were taking aliens with them. More importantly, they were learning. Every attack taught them something new about alien tactics and technology. Meanwhile, on the other side of human space, Colonel Ben Hayes was facing his own crisis. He commanded the defense of Titan Station, a mining facility built into a large asteroid. The station produced rare metals that were essential for building starships. Making it a prime target for the Empire, Ben watched the alien fleet approach on his screens. 12 ships, all of them military vessels. But Ben had advantages that General Carter didn't have. Titan Station was built inside an asteroid field, and Ben knew every rock and hiding place in the area. All mining ships, this is Colonel Hayes, execute Plan Ghost Mountain. The mining vessels scattered into the asteroid field, their crews abandoning them after setting the automated systems to continue working. To alien sensors, it would look like panicked miners fleeing the battle. The alien commander, a Zephyrian named Captain Vexstar, laughed as he watched the human ships run. Pathetic. These humans have no courage at all. His ships moved into the asteroid field, hunting down the mining vessels one by one. The aliens destroyed empty ship after empty ship, thinking they were winning a great victory. That's when Ben sprang his trap. The mining equipment that had been abandoned wasn't really abandoned. Ben's people had rigged the industrial cutting lasers and drilling equipment to work as weapons. When the alien ships moved within range, the asteroids themselves seemed to come alive with deadly energy. 3 alien vessels died in the first 10 seconds. Their hulls cut open by industrial lasers that were designed to slice through solid rock. The surviving ships tried to retreat, but Ben had positioned his real warships at the edge of the field. "Now," Ben ordered. The human military ships opened fire with everything they had. Caught between the weaponized mining equipment and the military vessels, the alien fleet was destroyed in minutes. Only 2 ships escaped to carry word of the defeat back to the Empire. Captain Rachel Stone was having her own success in a different part of space. She commanded the patrol ship Defiance, and she had been conducting hit-and-run attacks on alien supply convoys for weeks. Rachel had learned something important during her raids. The Zephyrian Empire was huge, but it was also slow and predictable. They had standard routes, standard procedures, and standard thinking. They did everything the same way they had always done it. "Captain, we've got another convoy coming through." "The Proxima system," reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Kevin Murphy. 6 cargo ships, 2 escort vessels. Rachel studied the tactical display. The aliens always used the same hyperspace routes, and they always traveled in the same formations. It made them easy to predict and easier to ambush. "Set course for the Proxima system. We'll hit them at the asteroid belt." The Defiance arrived at the ambush point 3 hours before the alien convoy. Rachel positioned her ship inside a large asteroid, using the rock to hide her energy signature. When the aliens arrived, they saw nothing but empty space. The convoy was moving slowly, confident in their safety. The escort ships were scanning for threats, but their sensors couldn't penetrate the asteroid field. Effectively, Rachel waited until the convoy was completely committed to the route through the asteroids. Then she struck. The Defiance burst out of hiding, its weapons blazing. The first alien escort ship exploded before it could raise its shields. The second escort tried to turn and fight, but Rachel was already moving to her next position, the cargo. Ships tried to run, but they were too slow and too big. Rachel's ship danced between the asteroids, using the rocks as cover while she systematically destroyed the alien vessels. In 10 minutes, it was over. The entire convoy was destroyed, and the Defiance had taken only minor damage. Rachel set course for her next target, knowing that somewhere in space there was another alien convoy that thought it was safe, back on New Kansas. General Carter was coordinating the evacuation of the civilian population. Her fleet was down to 8 ships, and the aliens were beginning to bombard the planet's surface. "General, we can't hold much longer," Captain Williams reported. "They're bringing more ships into the system," Lisa nodded. They had done everything they could. The planet would fall, but they had made the aliens pay a heavy price for it. More importantly, they had shown that humans could fight back. "All ships, begin final withdrawal. We've bought the civilians enough time to get away." As the surviving human ships jumped to hyperspace, Lisa looked back at the planet she was leaving behind. The aliens would claim it as their own, but they would remember the fight they had faced here. Admiral Kethfer was also looking at the planet, but his thoughts were different. He had expected easy victory, but these humans had surprised him. They fought with tactics he had never seen before, and they seemed to learn from every battle. Still, he had won. The planet was his, and the human fleet was destroyed. He sent his report to the Empire, describing the humans as more resilient than expected, but ultimately defeated. What he didn't know was that the real Human military hadn't even been involved in the fighting. Admiral Helen Brooks stood in the command center of the orbital station above Mars, watching the tactical displays with careful attention. She had been given command of what the aliens believed was the United Earth Defense Fleet, but Helen knew the truth. Her ships were old, her crews were volunteers, and most of her vessels were converted civilian craft. The real Earth military was somewhere else entirely. "Admiral, we're getting reports from the outer colonies," said Captain Roy. Carter, her chief of staff. "The aliens are pushing deeper into our space. They've taken 4 systems in the past month," Helen nodded. The plan was working perfectly. The Zephyrian Empire believed they were facing humanity's best and strongest forces. They had no idea that everything they fought was just colonial defense units and hastily assembled militia fleets. "What's our current strength?" she asked. 67 ships, ma'am. Most of them are cargo haulers and mining vessels with weapons bolted on. We've got maybe a dozen real warships, and those are all older models. Helen looked at the ship roster. The names told the story: Lucky Lady, a converted passenger liner; Iron Mountain, a mining ship with industrial lasers; Freedom's Call, a cargo hauler carrying missile pods in its hold. These weren't the ships of a space navy. They were the desperate weapons of a species fighting for survival. At least that's what the aliens were supposed to think. "Signal the fleet," Helen ordered. "We're beginning our fighting retreat to Earth. Make it look good, but don't let them catch us." The human fleet began moving toward Earth, staying just ahead of the pursuing Zephyrian forces. Helen's ships fought, running battles at every system, always retreating just when it looked like they might be overwhelmed. Captain Tony Mitchell commanded the converted cargo ship Big Sky, and he was about to become a hero. His ship was one of the slowest in the fleet, and the aliens were closing in fast. "Captain, we can't outrun them," reported his first officer, Lieutenant Nancy Williams. "They'll catch us in 10 minutes, Tony looked at his crew. They were all volunteers, people who had signed up to defend their homes and families. They knew the risks when they joined, but that didn't make the decision any easier. "All hands, this is the captain. We're going to buy the fleet some time. Prepare for ramming. Speed." The Big Sky turned around and accelerated toward the nearest Zephyrian dreadnought. The alien ship was massive, 10 times the size of the human vessel, but Tony had noticed something important during their retreat. The aliens always put their command centers in the same place, and their shields were weaker near the engine sections. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the alien ship," Nancy reported. "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was filled with confusion. "Human vessel, you are flying directly toward us. Change course immediately or be destroyed." Tony smiled grimly. "This is Captain Mitchell of the Big Sky. We're not changing course. See you in hell." The cargo ship slammed into the alien dreadnought at full speed. The explosion could be seen from light years away, and when the fire died down, both ships were gone. The alien fleet stopped their pursuit for several hours, shocked by the human's willingness to sacrifice himself for his comrades. Admiral Cuthbert stared at the debris field where the dreadnought had been. In all his years of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. Other species surrendered when faced with superior force. They tried to negotiate, or they ran away, or they simply accepted their fate. Humans were different. They fought until the very end, and they took aliens with them when they died. "Admiral," said his second-in-command, "the human fleet is escaping while we delay here." "Let them go," Cuthbert said quietly. "We need to report this to the Supreme Admiral." Meanwhile, Commander Sarah Blake was leading her own mission deep behind enemy lines. Her ship, the Midnight Runner, was a stealth vessel that had been modified to look like a damaged freighter. Her mission was to capture alien technology and bring it back to Earth for study. Sarah had chosen her target carefully. The Zephyrian cruiser Fist of Empire was damaged from a previous battle and was limping toward a repair station. It would be isolated and vulnerable, perfect for her needs. "Commander, we're in position," reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Gary Foster. "The alien ship is exactly where our intelligence said it would be. Sarah studied the enemy vessel through her periscope. It was huge compared to her ship, but she could see the damage along its hull. Scorch marks from human weapons, holes in its armor, and what looked like a failing engine. Launch the boarding pods. 4 small craft detached from the Midnight Runner and flew toward the alien ship. They looked like pieces of space debris, but each one carried a team of human soldiers equipped with cutting tools and weapons. The boarding pods attached to the alien hull and began burning through the armor plating. The Zephyrians inside the ship were not expecting an attack. They thought they were safe in their own territory. Sarah led the first team through the breach in the alien hull. The inside of the ship was different from anything she had seen before. The corridors were tall and narrow, designed for beings that were taller than humans. The walls were made of some kind of metal that seemed to glow with its own light. "Move fast," she ordered her team. "We need to get to their computer core before they can organize a defense." The human soldiers moved through the ship like ghosts, avoiding the main corridors and using maintenance shafts to reach their target. They encountered few aliens, and those they did meet were quickly and quietly eliminated. The computer core was located in the center of the ship, behind heavy armor and energy shields. But Sarah's team had brought specialized equipment for exactly this situation. They cut through the defenses like they were paper. "Download everything," Sarah ordered. Ship designs, tactical manuals, star charts, everything. While her team worked, Sarah studied the alien technology. The computers were advanced, but they were also old. Very old. The Empire had been using the same basic designs for centuries, maybe millennia. "Commander, we've got company," reported one of her soldiers. "Alien security forces heading this way." Sarah looked at the download progress. 50% complete. They needed more time. "Hold them off. We're not leaving without this data." The human soldiers set up defensive positions in the corridors leading to the computer core. They were outnumbered 10-1, but they had advantages the aliens didn't expect. Human weapons were quieter, human soldiers were smaller and harder to hit, and humans were willing to take risks that seemed insane to other species. The battle lasted 20 minutes. When it was over, half of Sarah's team was dead or wounded, but they had the alien data. More importantly, they had learned something crucial about their enemy. "Commander," said Lieutenant Foster as they escaped back to their ship, "did you see how they fought?" Sarah nodded. "Like they were following a manual. Same tactics, same formations, same responses to every situation. They're not adapting. They're just doing what they've always done, exactly. And that's going to be their downfall." Back on Earth, the news of the alien invasion was spreading through the population. People were scared, but they were also angry. Recruitment centers were overwhelmed with volunteers wanting to join the defense forces. President Donald Walsh addressed the nation from the White House. His words carried to every human colony and settlement. "My fellow humans, we face an enemy that believes we are weak. They think we are primitives who will fall before their superior technology. They are wrong. We will fight them on every world, in every system, until they learn that humanity cannot be conquered." The speech was broadcast on all frequencies, including those the aliens were monitoring. The Zephyrians heard it as the desperate words of a dying species. They had no idea it was actually a carefully crafted piece of misdirection. Admiral Kethver was preparing his report to the Empire's Supreme Admiral. He had conquered dozens of species, but none had fought like these humans. They were clever, they were brave, and they seemed to learn from every battle. Still, they were clearly losing. Their fleet was in full retreat, their colonies were falling, and their ships were no match for Zephyrian firepower. It was only a matter of time before the war was over. "Supreme Admiral," he said into his communication device, "the human species is proving more resilient than expected. They fight with uncommon courage and use tactics we have not encountered before. However, their defeat is inevitable. I request additional forces to complete the conquest of their homeworld." The response came quickly. "Granted, you will have the Third Fleet within 1 month." The Empire grows tired of this minor conflict. What Admiral Kethver didn't know was that human intelligence had intercepted his message. They knew exactly when and where the alien reinforcements would arrive. They knew the size of the fleet, the types of ships, and even the identity of the commander. Admiral Helen Brooks read the intelligence report with satisfaction. The Third Fleet was commanded by Supreme Admiral Vorthak himself, the most powerful military leader in the Zephyrian Empire. He was coming to Earth to personally oversee the final conquest of humanity. It was exactly what the humans had been hoping for. "Signal all ships," Helen ordered. "Begin final withdrawal to Earth. It's time for the last act of our little play." The human fleet began its final retreat, limping toward Earth like a wounded animal seeking shelter. Supreme Admiral Vorthak stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive dreadnought Eternal Glory, and watched Earth grow larger on his viewing screens. The blue and green planet looked peaceful from space, but he knew it was about to become a battlefield. Behind him stretched the most powerful fleet the Zephyrian Empire had ever assembled. 300 ships of war, carrying enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. This was the Third Fleet, and it had never known defeat in over 1,000 years of conquest. "Admiral," said his second-in-command, Captain Felthek, "we are detecting the human defense fleet in orbit around their homeworld." Vorthak studied the tactical displays with growing amusement. The human fleet looked exactly like what he expected from a dying species making its final stand. Old ships, converted civilian vessels, and what appeared to be orbital defense platforms that belonged in a museum. "How many ships?" he asked. 84, sir. Most of them appear to be cargo haulers and mining vessels with weapons attached. We count only 16 actual military vessels, and those are of primitive design." Vorthak laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "This is what the Empire feared? This is what required the Third Fleet to pacify?" He opened a communication channel to Admiral Kethver, who was commanding the advanced forces that had been chasing the humans across space. "Admiral Kethver, you have done well driving these primitives to their final refuge. Now witness how a real fleet ends a war." Admiral Helen Brooks watched the alien armada approach from her command ship, the converted battlecruiser Liberty Bell. Around her, the Earth Defense Fleet waited in what looked like a desperate, defensive formation. Her ships bore the scars of months of fighting, their hulls scorched and patched from countless battles. "Admiral, the alien fleet is taking attack positions," reported Captain Roy Carter. "They're moving into standard bombardment formation." Helen nodded. Everything was going according to plan. The aliens were seeing exactly what they expected to see. A broken fleet making a hopeless last stand around humanity's homeworld. "Signal all ships," she ordered. "Maintain defensive positions. Make them believe we're planning to fight to the death right here." The Earth Defense Fleet spread out around the planet, looking like they were trying to protect every orbital station and city from alien bombardment. The converted cargo ships took positions near the moon, while the old military vessels formed a battle line between Earth and the approaching enemy. Major Kyle Anderson sat in the cockpit of his fighter, the shooting star, preparing for what everyone believed would be the final battle of the war. Around him, 200 other pilots were making their own preparations for what looked like a suicide mission. "All pilots, this is Major Anderson," he said over the radio. "The aliens think they've got us beaten. Let's show them what human pilots can really do." Kyle's squadron was flying old fighters, planes that were outdated even by human standards. They carried limited ammunition and had shields that could barely stop small arms fire. Against the alien warships, they looked like insects attacking elephants, but Kyle had been studying alien tactics for months, and he had noticed something important. The Zephyrians fought like they expected easy victory. They stayed in formation, they followed predictable patterns, and they had never faced an enemy that used swarm tactics. "Remember the plan?" Kyle told his pilots. "We're not trying to destroy their big ships. We're trying to confuse them and buy time for the fleet." Supreme Admiral Vorthak watched the human fighters launch from their carriers and felt nothing but contempt. The small craft were flying straight toward his fleet in loose formations, without any apparent strategy or coordination. "Target the fighters," he ordered. "Destroy them before they can reach our ships." The alien fleet opened fire with thousands of energy weapons, filling space with deadly beams of light. Human fighters exploded by the dozens, their pilots dying in brilliant flashes of fire, but Kyle and his remaining pilots kept coming. They flew through the wall of enemy fire like they were diving through a storm, their ships twisting and turning in patterns the alien gunners couldn't follow. "Now!" Kyle shouted. The surviving fighters suddenly scattered in all directions, no longer flying toward the alien fleet, but around it. They were too fast and too small for the big alien guns to track effectively, and they began attacking the smaller escort vessels that protected the main battleships. The alien formation began to waver as ship captains tried to protect themselves from the swarming fighters. Some ships broke ranks to chase the human craft. While others continued the bombardment of the planet, Vorthak watched his perfect formation dissolve into chaos and felt the first stirring of concern. These humans were not fighting like any enemy he had faced before. "Reform the battle line," he ordered. "Do not let these insects distract you from the main objective." But the damage was done. Kyle's fighters had bought the Earth Defense Fleet precious time, and Admiral Helen Brooks was ready to use it. "All ships, execute Plan Shepard," she ordered. The human fleet suddenly abandoned their defensive positions and scattered across the solar system. To the aliens, it looked like the humans had finally broken under pressure and were fleeing in panic. Vorthak smiled with satisfaction. "Pursue them! Do not let a single human ship escape." The alien fleet broke apart as different groups chased different human vessels. Some aliens followed the converted cargo ships toward the asteroid belt, while others pursued the old military vessels toward the outer planets. Captain Lavra Jensen commanded what the aliens thought was a crippled exploration vessel called the Star Wanderer. Her ship had been trailing engine plasma and sending distress signals for hours, making it look like an easy target for any alien captain wanting to claim a quick victory. 3. Zephyrian cruisers had broken off from the main fleet to hunt her down, thinking they were chasing a helpless refugee ship. They moved in for the kill with casual confidence. "Captain," said her tactical officer, Lieutenant Mike Torres, "they're closing to weapons range." Lavra watched the alien ships approach on her screens. They were moving in a standard attack formation, exactly like the textbook said they would. No creativity, no adaptation, just the same tactics they had used for centuries. "Wait for it," she said quietly. The alien ships opened fire, their energy beams reaching out toward the Star Wanderer. But at the last second, Laura's ship seemed to flicker and disappear. The aliens stared at their screens in confusion. Their target had simply vanished from sight, like it had never been there at all. "Where did it go?" demanded the lead alien captain. His answer came in the form of weapons fire from directly behind his ship. The Star Wanderer had somehow moved from in front of the alien formation to behind it without being detected. Laura's ship opened fire with weapons that shouldn't have existed on an exploration vessel. The alien cruiser's shields collapsed under the assault, and the ship exploded in a ball of fire. The other two alien ships tried to turn and fight, but Lavra was already moving again. Her ship flickered in and out of visibility, appearing and disappearing like a ghost. The aliens couldn't track her, couldn't predict her movements, couldn't even understand how she was doing what she was doing. In 5 minutes, all 3 alien ships were destroyed. Lavra set course for her next target, leaving behind nothing but debris and very confused alien survivors. Similar scenes were playing out across the solar system as other human ships revealed capabilities the aliens had never suspected. The converted cargo ship Iron Mountain suddenly deployed weapons that could punch through any alien shield. The old patrol boat Freedom Song began moving faster than alien sensors could track. Back on the Eternal Glory, Supreme Admiral Vorthak was receiving reports that made no sense. His ships were being destroyed by vessels that should have been helpless. The humans were using technology that seemed to violate the laws of physics. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "These are primitive ships crewed by desperate refugees." "Captain." Felthik was studying the tactical displays with growing alarm. "Sir, I think we may have underestimated these humans." "Impossible. We have fought them for months. We know their capabilities. With respect, sir, what if we don't?" "What if everything we've seen until now has been... Has been what? A deception, sir? What if this isn't really their military? Vorthak stared at his second-in-command. The idea was ridiculous. No species was that devious, that patient, that willing to sacrifice their own people for a strategic advantage. Then Admiral Helen Brooks appeared on his communication screen, and her words chilled him to his very core. Supreme Admiral Vorthak, I am Admiral Brooks of the Earth Defense Force. You wanted to see humanity's military response? The local defense forces have performed admirably, but I'm afraid the real army hasn't even shown yet. Vorthak felt his confidence crumble. What do you mean? I mean, Helen said with a smile that promised terrible things, that you've been fighting civilians and militia volunteers for the past 6 months? The actual human navy has been watching from the shadows, studying your tactics, learning your weaknesses. You're lying. Check your long-range sensors, Admiral. Check them very carefully. Vorthak turned to his sensor operator with growing dread. What do you detect at the edge of the system? The space around Earth suddenly erupted with light as massive ships dropped out of hyperspace. Supreme Admiral Vorthak stared at his sensor screens in horror as vessel after vessel appeared from nowhere, each one larger and more advanced than anything in his fleet. Admiral Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the UES Sovereign, a battleship so massive it could have carried Vorthak's entire flagship inside its cargo bay. Around him, the real human navy took formation with the precision of a machine designed for war. Admiral Webb to all ships, Marcus said calmly into his communicator. This is the Home Defense Fleet. Take defensive positions around Earth. Protect the civilians and the Colonial Defense Force. Marcus looked at the tactical display showing the Zephyrian fleet. 300 ships that had seemed overwhelming just minutes ago now looked small and outdated compared to the human vessels surrounding them. Communications opened a channel to the alien commander. The image of Supreme Admiral Vorthak appeared on the main screen. The alien leader looked confused and frightened, a far cry from the confident conqueror who had arrived at Earth just hours before. I am Admiral Marcus Webb of the Human Navy, Marcus said. You have attacked our colonies, killed our people, and threatened our homeworld. Surrender now, and you will be treated according to the rules of war. Vorthak found his voice. This is impossible. We have been fighting your military for months. We know your capabilities, Marcus smiled coldly. You've been fighting farmers, miners, and shopkeepers who volunteered to defend their homes. You haven't seen our military yet. You're lying. No species could hide forces this large. Colonel Price, demonstrate our point? Colonel Jennifer Price commanded the destroyer-used Thunderbolt, a ship that was smaller than most alien cruisers but moved like a fighter craft. As Vorthak watched in amazement, the human destroyer simply vanished from his sensors. The Thunderbolt reappeared behind 3 Zephyrian ships, fired a single shot that passed through all 3 vessels like they were made of paper, then disappeared. Again, the alien ships exploded one after another, their hulls simply disintegrating. Stealth technology, Marcus explained casually. We've been watching your fleets for months without you knowing we were there. Captain Steve Roberts was piloting his fighter craft, the Phantom, in a demonstration that made the aliens question everything they thought they knew about physics. His ship seemed to exist in multiple places at once, phasing in and out of normal space like a ghost. Steve flew directly through the middle of an alien battleship, his fighter passing through solid matter without touching it. He emerged on the other side and fired a single shot that somehow struck the alien vessel from inside its own shields. Dimensional phase technology, Marcus continued. We can exist in normal space and hyperspace at the same time. Your weapons and shields can't touch us when we don't want them to. Vorthak was trying to process what he was seeing, but it was beyond his understanding. How is this possible? Your technology should be primitive compared to ours. Who told you that? Marcus asked. Did you ever actually study human technology, or did you just assume we were primitive because we looked different? The truth was, hitting Vorthak like a physical blow, the Empire had made assumptions based on first contact with exploration ships and colonial defense forces. They had never actually encountered real human military technology. General Patricia Lewis appeared. On another screen, her image being broadcast from a command center somewhere on Earth. Supreme Admiral, let me explain something about human military doctrine. Rule number 1, if you're fighting fair, you're doing it wrong. What do you mean? I mean, we don't believe in honorable battles or fair fights. We believe in winning, no matter what it takes. We've been studying your empire for over a year, learning your weaknesses, preparing for this moment. Marcus gestured to his tactical display. Every battle you fought, every tactic you've used, every weapon you've fired, we've been watching and recording. We know how you think, how you fight, how you react to different situations, but how did you hide so many ships? We didn't hide them. They were right here in the solar system the entire time. You just couldn't see them. Captain Steve Roberts was still flying his demonstration mission, but now he was joined by dozens of other human fighters. They moved in formations that seemed to defy the laws of physics, appearing and disappearing at will. The alien ships tried to target them, but their weapons passed harmlessly through empty space. The human fighters existed in a different dimension, one where alien technology couldn't reach them. This is just our home defense fleet, Marcus continued. Earth's local protection force. The real human navy, the fleets that patrol the galaxy's edge and guard our outer territories, they're much bigger than this. Vorthak felt his world crumbling around him. How much bigger? Let me put it this way, General Lewis said. What? You're seeing here represents about 2% of human military capability. The alien admiral stared at the human ships surrounding his fleet. If this was only 2%, then the full human military was beyond his ability to comprehend. But why? Vorthak asked desperately. Why deceive us? Why let us attack your colonies? Marcus's expression grew cold. Because we needed to know who you really were. We needed to see if you were a threat to peace in the galaxy or if you could be reasoned with. And what did you conclude? You attack peaceful civilizations without provocation. You demand surrender without negotiation. You destroy those who resist and enslave those who submit. You are exactly the kind of threat we were created to eliminate. Admiral Helen Brooks appeared on the communication channel, her battered ships, now revealed to be far more advanced than they had appeared. The Colonial Defense Force thanks you for the training exercise, Admiral. Our people learned a lot about fighting alien technology. Training exercise? Vorthak whispered. Every battle you fought was a test, Marcus explained. We wanted to see how our civilian forces would perform against a real military threat. The results were better than we hoped. Your civilians defeated our best fleets. With minimal training and outdated equipment, yes. Imagine what our actual military can do. Captain Lavaryenzin's ship, the Star Wanderer, suddenly revealed its true form. What had appeared to be a damaged exploration vessel was actually one of the most advanced ships in human space, equipped with technology that made Zephyrian science look primitive. Holographic disguises, Lavra explained over the radio. We can make our ships look like anything we want. You never saw our real vessels at all. Supreme Admiral Vorthak realized the full extent of his defeat. Not only had his invasion failed, but the humans had been toying with him from the beginning. Everything he thought he knew about human capabilities was wrong. What happens now? He asked. Marcus considered the question. That depends on you. You can surrender and return to your empire with a message, or you can fight and be destroyed. Either way, this invasion ends today. What message? That humanity is not interested in conquest, but we will defend ourselves and others against aggressors. Tell your empire that the galaxy has new protectors and we don't tolerate bullies. General Lewis added her own warning. Also tell them that this conversation is being broadcast to every species in this sector of space. Everyone now knows that the mighty Zephyrian Empire was defeated by human farmers and shopkeepers. The political implications hit Vorthak like a hammer. The Empire's reputation for invincibility was destroyed. Other species would see that the Zephyrians could be beaten, that their technology wasn't as advanced as they claimed. You've destroyed. U.S., he said quietly. No, Marcus replied. You destroyed yourselves when you chose to become conquerors instead of explorers. We just showed the galaxy who you really are." Vorthak looked at his fleet, then at the human ships surrounding them. He had come to Earth expecting an easy victory and the submission of another primitive species. Instead, he had walked into a trap that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. "We surrender," he said finally. "Wise choice. You have 24 hours to leave human space and return to your empire. If any Zephyrian ship is detected in our territory after that time, it will be destroyed without warning." As the alien fleet began its retreat, Marcus opened a channel to all human forces. "All ships, mission accomplished. The invasion is over, and our people are safe." But even as he spoke, Marcus knew this was just the beginning. Word of humanity's victory would spread across the galaxy, and other species would want to know more about these new protectors who had appeared from nowhere. The real army had finally shown itself, and the galaxy would never be the same.